Welcome to the City Manager's Report. The City Manager's Report, a look at city updates and municipal news, and a preview of the next Oshkosh Common Council meeting agenda. Your hosts, Emily Springstroh of Oshkosh Media and City Manager Mark Roloff.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us on GovTV for your City Manager's Report, your source for all of the latest and greatest news and updates that are happening right here in the city of Oshkosh, as well as a preview of the upcoming Common Council meeting agenda. I'm your host, Emily Springstroh, joined as always by our City Manager, Mark Roloff. Welcome, Mark. Thanks for joining us today.
Great to be here, Emily.
It's great to have you. As always, we've got a lot to talk about. It's no shortage of hot topics and great things to discuss on today's show. So we're going to dive into the first half of the show, take a little break, and we'll return with a preview of the Common Council meeting agenda for Tuesday, September 11th, 2018. So, Mark, kicking off the show, we want to talk about a really exciting event that happened a couple weeks ago on August 23rd, actually. It was the ribbon cutting and grand opening ceremony for the latest section of the Riverwalk.
A great addition, this one in front of the Morgan District property. Morgan District folks were kind enough to dedicate a portion of this so that we could put public Riverwalk in there. And it connects all the areas there, the bridge that was over by the Michigan Avenue pier, and then just in the shadow of the water tower and everything. So it's a wonderful addition. Now it takes us past Oregon Street to the east, and we're about 80% done with the downtown Riverwalk, and maybe even a little more than that. So great turnout from a variety of people, neighbors, trail enthusiasts and whatnot. Mayor Cummings told some great stories about the old Morgan property and just his vision for how this will benefit the community in the future.
Mm-hmm. So it's a very exciting time to have this section of the Riverwalk completed. Something that's really neat about this section is that it connects to the last part that we celebrated, which I think was about 2 years ago, and that is the Boatworks area where the kayak launch and the old train bridge is. And so this has finally been connected and the bridge goes somewhere now.
It really is nice because now you're going to see a lot of people taking morning jogs and whatnot and really have a defined route to do it. There were a couple dead ends before we got that. It was really a bridge to nowhere, and now that bridge is, as you mentioned, the rail crossing there, the old rail crossing we have as one of the archways, and that really gives it a lot of character. But it right along the Riverwalk and through some tougher areas because it's not just all seawall there. There's a couple little green areas that you got to dodge around. So that's what makes it nice. And then once the Morgan District gets going, it's going to be another addition where you're going to have downtown living meets the Riverwalk, and it'll be a great place for people to congregate and meet up and do a lot of recreation. So we're excited about it and can't wait for the next step in the Riverwalk process.
Yes, which leads me to my next question. Do we have a plan for where the next section is going to be completed?
The next section is really going to be opportunistic in terms of where we go because obviously we want to get over to the Pioneer Island. A lot of that's going to depend on what happens with the Pioneer. That's the big $1,000 question. But do we, if something happens with Pioneer sooner than later, we'd probably work on the Pioneer site itself. Otherwise, what you'll see next is probably an extension east of Main Street. We'll probably end up taking the Riverwalk back to 6th Street because that's really where it needs to cross Main Street. But once we get over east of Main Street, then you're going to see some connection with the downtown, the convention center, and things like that. Hotel visitors will be able to essentially do a whole loop, and that's what I think we're really hoping to achieve. Once we get that loop completely done, you're going to have a lot of excited people because it gives them more opportunities to explore the riverfront.
Definitely. It kind of makes it flow a lot better. So we're really excited for this portion of the Riverwalk being completed. We encourage everybody to go down and check it out. And we're definitely looking forward to the next section getting started. So moving on to our next topic for the first half, we've got Oregon Street. Now this has been a huge topic of discussion over the last few months, especially on social media. Kind of give us an update on where the project is so far and where we're at this point.
Well, the street itself is open now between 6th all the way down to South Park. South of South Park, it's still a little tough, but the real issue has been the status of parking because we took out more parking spaces than we ourselves anticipated. And we had a meeting with some of the property owners out there just recently, and they gave us their input. They would like us to restore some parking spaces, but fortunately they recognize the need to make sure that those truck turning movements are good. They asked about parking, and we pointed out that, you know, while we've taken away some of the on-street parking to get those lanes like here at 9th opened up properly, we actually do have some parking available, city parking, the 8th Street lot, there's some over on 10th. So there's opportunities besides on-street parking. It's just about getting people used to that, and I think the public will use it if they're made aware of it. But the businesses know that a lot of people like to jump out of their car, run inside, and come back real quick. So we're going to bring something forward to the Traffic and Parking Advisory Board. They're going to look at it at their September 11th meeting, and then we'll bring it forward probably on September 25th to the council with some recommendations. We might have to tweak some of the parking spaces, maybe make them a little narrower, which opens up a little more parking there. But I think it's doable, and I really appreciate the patience of the property owners out there to work with us and recognize that, you know, we got to work on this together, and we'll make it work. Won't be everything that they had before, but it'll be a big improvement, and the street looks great, and we're happy about that.
That's a very great point. It's great to have the discussions happening with the business owners and property owners out there. So to be presented to traffic review, and in the meantime, work continues. This section is completed, but what is still needs to be done as a part of the Oregon Street project?
From South Park down to 16th is the phase for this year, so that'll be done over the next 2 months. We really wanted to get that area open between South Park and 6th because that represents the biggest flow of traffic because of the connections with I-41. But you'll be, the folks south of South Park will still be inconvenienced for probably a couple more months. So just bear with us, and progress will take a little bit of time.
Definitely. So we appreciate everyone's patience, and as always, use caution when you're approaching any construction zone in Oshkosh, and just be aware of the different signs and detours, things like that. Moving down our list, we want to give a little plug for some informed electorate programs coming up at the Oshkosh Public Library. Some really great opportunities to educate yourselves on some different issues coming up as we move towards the election here. One of these that we want to kind of highlight a little bit, I guess, because our city manager will be participating in it, is the Dark Store presentation. That one's coming up on September 18th. But overall, I think there's 4 or 5 of them, and really great programs. 4
presentations, and the topics, a lot of it is just background about political rhetoric and just current topics, tech for voters, but it starts on September 17th. There are the dates and the times. The one that I'll be explaining, Dark Store referendum, will be on September 18th. It'll be under the dome. I haven't done a presentation under the dome, so that'll be kind of cool, but September 18th at 6:30 p.m., and we'll be explaining the Dark Store referendum because Winnebago County has placed a referendum on the ballot. But then there's other topics, because this is a whole series. This is not just about the Dark Stores discussion. It's how tech works with in elections these days, and all the discussion about fake news. What is fake news? How do you address issues that you may consider to be not correct or something like that? The idea is the public library is there to inform and educate the public, and this series is intended to give the public a chance to learn about issues, whether they're directly related to a referendum issue like the Dark Store issue, or if there's other elements that can just make you a more informed voter on Election Day.
Yes, and there are going to be conversations about my favorite thing, social media, too. So there'll be a little bit of presentations on how that affects elections and things like that. So we definitely encourage you to check these out at the Oshkosh Public Museum. They're always putting on great programs. Public Library, thank you. Over at the Public Library, check out their website if you want a little bit more detail on some of these programs as well. And we look forward to hearing Mark speaking at one of them under the dome. So, moving down in our list, it's now that time of the show where viewers can ask their city manager anything they want about things that are happening right here in Oshkosh. That's right, it's time for Question Mark. So let's go ahead and see what the question this week is. All right, so Mark, question this week is, why did South Park flood if the stormwater project was supposed to help that? Great question.
It is, and we got this from a variety of sources.
A lot of sources.
A lot of people were questioning Mark on that one. Well, the short answer is that it really did address the storm sewer. It just, does it help? Yes, it helped a lot. But there are some big storms that we have to manage, and you have to understand that the South Park improvements are really part of what's called Stringham Creek. And Stringham Creek is a large watershed that stretches back west past I-41, past the outlet mall, and then starts to funnel as you get towards South Park. And then once it gets east of and north of South Park, it's all storm sewers, and that is literally the base of the funnel there. Mm-hmm. And South Park is sort of the bottom of the funnel. So the water ends up in South Park and then has to funnel into the storm sewer system at that point. It's all about what's called hydraulic capacity, and there's only so much capacity that these areas have just east of South Park. And in the case of South Park in that area, South Park is surprisingly close in elevation to the level of the Fox River and Lake Winnebago. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times those areas there's water in those storm sewers the entire time, year round. So that's one of the challenges we have. So you did see some backup on South Park, and for storm events of this nature, you're going to continue to see that. Eventually, as we address more areas of Stringham Creek, specifically once the quarry decides to do something, that'll likely be an area where we would do more stormwater. Mm-hmm. But we do have 120 different stormwater watersheds in the city of Oshkosh. Stringham Creek's one of the larger ones, but we have limited ability to address that one right now. We took care of in South Park because it was available. We had control over it, and we also wanted to take care of stormwater quality. Not as much stormwater quantity as we would like, but still noticeable improvement. Those shots that we saw were taken just today, so it was pretty short order after the storm that it got back to normal. So that's important for us. But those are issues that we're constantly addressing, and we're going to have to continue to address.
And the hydraulic capacity that you mentioned, and this is a great conversation to have because a lot of people ask, why are the streets flooding? And that's a great explanation that just because there is flooding happening doesn't mean that the system's not working. It's that they can only handle so much at one time.
Yeah, it's unfortunate when it's very inconvenient and dangerous when the streets flood over. Please don't drive those streets when that happens, but when it does happen, the street does have to serve a little bit of that capacity for a short amount of time. Avoid driving through those areas because it's very dangerous. Manholes can pop up and your wheel can suddenly find itself down a storm drain or a manhole or something like that. You don't want that to happen. So we know that that's part of what we do, but I think we've seen improvements over the last couple of years, and we're pleased with those improvements, but we still have a ways to go.
Yes, and so it's 2018. It's been 10 years since those storms of 2008, and a lot of basements flooding at that time during those big storms in 2008. So what have we learned since then? What are we doing to prevent this kind of situation from happening again?
We're still working on what's called a cross-connect between residences and other areas where stormwater is being directed into our sanitary sewer system. That was the primary reason that basements got flooded, because too much stormwater was in our sewer system, and so it went back into people's areas. If you have a backflow device in your sewer, it prevents water from coming back into your basement or into your system. And then if you have your sump pump connected to your sanitary system, you need to get it corrected. Number one, it's against the law, but more importantly, it puts your house at danger because you're allowing extra water to enter our sanitary sewer system, and you pay a sanitary sewer bill. It's not to clean water. You don't need that. So it's very important for people to understand that. I know there were stories of people who thought they were trying to do the right thing by draining the street by pulling up a sanitary sewer manhole, and essentially what they did during those storms, they were well intended, but they drained the street and the water went immediately into the sanitary system and into everybody's basements. And so we got to educate people and continuously educate people. There's another concept that's known as inflow and infiltration. It's also known as I&I, and that's where water from storm sewer systems get into our sanitary system, and we're looking for ways to correct that all the time. We are probably spending close to $1 million a year on that, and we've been spending that pretty consistently since 2010. Mm-hmm. So that's, we've got about $8 million just in I&I control that we've done, and we're going to continue to do that because we still have that issue going on.
It's a huge project, and the city has been doing a lot of work in the last decade and beyond that. So a lot of really good conversations to be had. I think we need to devote a whole episode one time to stormwater education. But a great question for the question mark segment this week. So thanks for the response to this excellent question, Mark.
Yeah, more to come.
Yes, and don't forget, if you have a question for Mark, we highly encourage you to send it to us on Twitter, post it on the Oshkosh Media Facebook wall, or email it to us, and he will answer it on the next episode of City Manager's Report. So with that, we're going to take a quick break here on the show. When we return, we'll go ahead and take a look at the Common Council meeting agenda for Tuesday, September 11th, 2018. We'll be right back.
Holding a phone takes precious attention away from the road. That's why handheld cell phone use is now illegal in Wisconsin work zones, and fines start at $40. Driving deserves your undivided attention. It's about safety for workers and for all motorists. So when you see orange cones, please put down the phone. The Wisconsin DOT urges you to help us achieve 0 deaths on Wisconsin roads.
It is sad but true that for years, some people have been using storm drains to dispose of their wastes. Storm sewers do not treat or clean up anything passing through them. Everything that enters a storm drainage system is eventually discharged in exactly the same form as it entered. These wastes can kill plants and destroy breeding areas. Never pour or dump anything down any storm drain.
Welcome back to City Manager's Report. Thanks again for joining us. We're in the second half of the show, and that means we're going to take a look at some of the highlights for the upcoming Common Council meeting on Tuesday, September 11th. So the first item that we want to talk about here, Mark, is a presentation happening at the start of the meeting, and that is on inventory and analysis of housing stock. Tell us a little bit about where this presentation is coming from and what's going to be discussed.
Council had given me a goal for 2018 to take a look at our housing stock because they recognize the need to encourage more single-family housing in the community. So it's a matter of where is it, how much do we have, and what we can do to maybe expand that housing stock. Options to take a look at some of the older areas. Do we consider options such as maybe completely tearing down a block and rebuilding it and things like that, or something known as rock the block, where you try to do a little bit of work and try to leverage other people to invest. So those are the different options. But the whole idea is to identify where we can grow our housing stock. And so the maps are going to be very interesting to show you where some of our growth areas are. We do have plenty of areas to grow. It's just a matter of making the right opportunities available, extension of infrastructure, things like that, so that we can have more opportunities to get more single-family homes right in the city of Oshkosh.
Excellent. So really looking for feedback from council on where we're at and what more they'd like to hear from you.
Correct.
Excellent. Moving down under the consent agenda, we've got the award of a bid to Cardinal Construction Company for the Riverwalk renovation at the Leach Amphitheater. So this is not a brand new Riverwalk happening over there. This is mainly a improvement.
Yeah, it's rehabbing a portion of the Riverwalk over by the Leach Amphitheater, which was actually the very first portion. For those who've been watching the show for a long time, there were some environmental issues there, and we had to be careful there before we didn't want to disturb anything. But now that we've had some success there, we recognize that the way it was done to environmentally comply has created some maintenance issues. So we're going to fix those things, and We have a lot of boats that dock there, for example, for Waterfest and things like that. We want to be able to keep that going. So it's improvements there to reinforce that area and to make the Riverwalk last a lot longer out there.
Definitely some great maintenance to, like you said, keep it around much longer. Moving down under consent agenda, we've got the approval of the determination of necessity to acquire property located at 851 through 905 West 17th Avenue and a portion of 1732 Knapp Street. What exactly is at this location, Mark, and what's going to be happening over there?
This is an old quarry that was known as the Keenest Quarry and part of what was known as a Paulus Quarry. The city didn't own it, but we had used a portion of that quarry once it was done as a landfill. So we're partially responsible for it as well as the prior owner, and we've gotten some funds from them that we've been holding on to. But the properties you see here in blue, we need to acquire because we need to put in what's called an active ventilation system, similar to the one over at Quarry Park. Mm-hmm. The idea is we have a lot of methane gas beneath there, and it's collecting too much, and we need to vent it out. So that's what this process is. And first thing we need to do is acquire these properties. Some of them are homes, and they're going to have to get relocated, and there are laws that we have to follow in order to make this happen.
Excellent. Well, thanks for the background information on that, and we look forward to even more information at the council meeting. Moving down under pending ordinances, we have a couple under pending and new ordinances, and these two are related to each other, approving the zone change for property located at 1159 North Keller Street, and then also the specific implementation plan for that development. Give us a little bit of background, what exactly is going here, and what's the plan?
This is the remnant area between Oshkosh Avenue and Keller. That's between the two easternmost roundabouts. So it's just there as you make the curve heading north on Keller towards Oshkosh Avenue. So this is a subject site, and Bank First National has a location downtown, and they're going to be building a new branch out here. And I know a lot of people always ask, well, what's going on? So figured we'd satisfy everybody's curiosity by letting them know. And the Plan Commission has already reviewed it, and it'll make a great location. As you're getting off the freeway, you'll be able to see it. And it's just going to add to that entire area around Oshkosh Corporation. Very high standard of design, so we're real happy that they're going to be joining us over there.
Excellent. Looks really nice. It'll be a great addition to the area. Continuing on under new ordinances, we've got the adoption of an ordinance to regulate the operation of commercial quadricycles, otherwise known as pedal pubs. Now, this is an exciting one, talking about regulations, routes, things like that. So what's going on here, Mark?
The state enacted a law that said if you want to regulate pedal pubs, you have to do your own ordinance. Otherwise, you have to follow the state rules, and the state rules don't necessarily fit everything that we would like to do. So we're creating our own ordinance in accordance with state law, and we actually had some interest from some businesses that want to operate pedal pubs. And these are some examples from Madison to give you an idea of what they look like. But they're people-powered, but there's an operator who is not indulging. But the idea is that they'll work in conjunction with some of our downtown pubs. You can't carry open intoxicants on and off it, but you can purchase or arrange to have liquor, or I should say malt beverages acquired, so you can basically ride the streets and enjoy the downtown site. So we've already had one person who's definitely interested and another person express interest. The routes will be determined in conjunction with planning and the police department, so that safety is always the issue out there. But they're picking up a lot of interest in a lot of areas, and it's one of those cool community type of things. Yeah. And who knows how long they'll last, but we'll certainly give it a shot and see how well it works in Oshkosh.
It seems like a cool way to enjoy the downtown area or surrounding areas in Oshkosh. So I guess we're looking forward to seeing where it goes, and glad to see different departments working together on making this happen. Moving down under new resolutions, Mark, we've got the award for a bid for a public works contract to Vinton Construction for the Oshkosh Avenue area redevelopment infrastructure improvements. And we've been talking about this area for quite a while. This is the area that's leading into the Oshkosh Corp site.
Yes, it is. And we've had so many different discussions about that, but this is to do the roads and some of the storm water improvements out there. And this is the road. So essentially you have Keller Street that extends north of Oshkosh Avenue, and it's going to loop around to the east and catch up with an extension of North Westfield Street. And then right at the northeast corner where those two streets come together, that's where the Oshkosh Corporation entrance will be, and that'll be a private road. But this is all about the improvements that we agreed to put in as part of the incentive package for Oshkosh Corporation. This phase of the project we estimated to be about $3.7 million. It came in very good at $3.1 million. We didn't get some revenues that we had hoped for, so it'll make up for those lost revenues. So we're still under budget, and we're very pleased with that. This is the next step in everything to keep things going. So the phase-in of this is North Westfield Street will be done right now. The trucks are coming in off of Keller. Once Westfield's done, then the trucks can move over there to North Westfield, and then we'll finish North Keller. And that'll likely be, the North Keller part will likely be in 2019. So there'll always be access for Oshkosh Corporation to get their trucks on and off the site because we want to keep them out of the residential areas over there. But the idea is that we'll have a nice loop road, and when it's done, then Oshkosh Corporation will have two options for their traffic to get out onto Oshkosh Avenue. So we're pleased that it's under budget and pleased that we've got it bid out and everything. And everything tells me we're on track to make sure that they're on track for their fall 2019 opening.
Wonderful. It's very exciting that this is just continuing to move along, and looking forward to this starting up this fall, you mentioned.
Yeah, it'll start this fall, basically getting the basic road down, and I'm not sure if the pavement will necessarily go in right away this fall or later. It's really going to be weather dependent.
Okay, excellent. Next item right after that, we've got the approval of the Rouge Park Master Plan. This has gone through Advisory Park Board, Plan Commission, and it's been a process with public meetings and input. Tell us a little bit about the Rouge Park Master Plan.
Well, the idea is to make it more engaging for the residents out there. It's right along the backside of some homes and kind of tucked away, so people don't necessarily view it as a traditional park, but it's parkland for that area for people to enjoy. So it's an extension of the trail system that already exists. And then also, one of the more controversial issues out there was lighting for the park. And it was recognized that we do need some lighting out there. In fact, the Parks Board felt maybe we need to put even more lighting out there. It's sufficiently enough away from some homes, and I know some folks were concerned about that, but I think when they see the final product, they'll see that it's intended to be lighting for the immediate trail area, not to spill over into residential areas and be disruptive to folks. So great input from the public. We had a bunch of meetings and the Parks Board signed off on it, so we're real excited that this is going to be moving forward. This is all subject to funding. This is just the plan. This isn't the funding of it. So
we don't
it's
have any
going to
start date or anything
No,
like that.
it's going to take a long time. This is just getting the plans in place to move forward.
Excellent. Well, it's been very interesting to see the process that led up to this point, and we look forward to a lot more detail on this too at the council meeting. So last item that we want to discuss really quickly is to promote the future budget workshop coming up here on September 19th at 5 p.m. in room 404. We'll be covering it live on Oshkosh Media. Any quick preview for that?
This is the third of 6 budget workshops. The council will be talking about capital improvements at this one. And it's the last one before they actually receive the budget. This is kind of preparing them for everything that goes on with it. So we're looking forward to discussing our capital needs and how we plan to fund them in general for 2019 and beyond.
Wonderful. So the budget process moves along. And once again, that'll be on Oshkosh Media. You can catch it on our website too. And we look forward to covering that. So that's going to do it for this episode of City Manager's Report. Mark, we are out of time. Thanks as always for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
Once again, the Common Council meeting is this Tuesday, September 11th at 6 p.m. You can watch it live on GovTV and on our website at oshkoshmedia.org, or you can listen to it on Oshkosh FM 101.9, which is also online and on the TuneIn Radio app. Don't forget to like Oshkosh Media on Facebook or follow us on Twitter for all of the community and government programming and updates you can see, or check us out on our YouTube channel for government meeting replays and past episodes of your favorite programs. As always, don't forget, if you have a question for City Manager Mark Roloff, send it to us on Twitter, post it to Facebook, email it to us, and he'll answer it on the next episode of CMR. So with that, we'd like to thank you again for joining us on City Manager's Report, and we'll see you next time.